liberal democracies don't teach kids about money. Actually, nobody teaches kids about money. I'm from Germany, and the first time I learned what inflation is was 3 years after my graduation, and I wasn't even living in Germany anymore. The governments of the world's most developed nations don't seem to care much to teach their people about money. Why is that? Maybe it's because teaching their people about money would require teaching them how their government systematically steals from them. And that the reason why they can't afford a house and can't afford to feed a family on a single income anymore isn't because they're lazy millennials or lazy Gen Z or whatever, but it's because they have to work their entire lives for something that the state can print out of thin air. Of course your government won't teach you that, it'll probably make you pretty angry. We live in a world that wants us in debt, that wants us consuming, wants us spending money constantly, doesn't want us saving money because saving's no good in this messy economy that we've put ourselves into. We live in a world where bad debt has become not just normal, it has become normalized, and financial institutions make money off of your misery. We live in a world where in one of the richest, most powerful nations, people pay for burritos in installments. I want to live in such a world. So they could say that I'm shilling the dictator and so on and so forth. But this was last week. These kids are part of the pilot program of the What is Money project. Because in El Salvador, 7-year-olds learn about money. Give me one other country that does this. One other country that actively pursues the financial sovereignty of its citizens. One other country that says, I know money's a tool for mass control, and I'm going to do the opposite and set my people free. Because I can tell you about countries that are well on their way to eradicating cash or replacing it with digital surveillance money. Or countries that are well on their way to imposing digital ID on a wholly unwilling population without a democratic mandate. Or I can tell you about countries that have frozen their citizens' bank accounts because they engaged in protests against the regime. I can tell you none of those countries are El Salvador. All of those countries are so-called first world countries, supposedly part of the free world, supposedly full democracies according to the Democracy Index. But tell me again how El Salvador is the dictatorship.
Kids in El Salvador are getting orange-pilled in elementary school. Meanwhile, the West teaches, here's how to take out predatory debt and stay poor forever. It's almost like people in the 1970s knew where fiat would eventually lead. At least a few of them. I may be taking some liberties here, but what if Project Looking Glass revealed a surveillance state, monetary collapse, and an awakening? An awakening to the grand illusion of fiat money.
There's a problem when we approach 2012. The timelines converge on that point in time. At the end of 2012, the choices that we make become less and less consequential to the future. And eventually we're pushed into this bottleneck of time, no matter which choice we make. And that's important to the people that had access to Looking Glass, because what happened was people, very smart people, began to figure out that something big was coming up. Something that made it so all the possibilities of all the future scenarios of any choice, any possibility that was fed in and observed through the Looking Glass inherently ended up in the same future. And no decision, no possibility changed past a certain point. That's the big secret. All possible timelines lead to the same basic set of history in the future.
And what is that history? Did you know that, or did you find that out?
That is the big question. That is the big secret. That is what sends everybody that has all of the information, that knows everything, into a blind panic. The people that know everything about Looking Glass, that have gotten all the reports and all the information, the elites of the world, probably figured out that that was the end of the game. And nothing could be manipulated beyond that point. At a certain point, after they're done hearing the computer tell them, this is what's going to happen, over and over and over and over again, all they become focused on is, how do we fix it? What I do know is that I was called in and asked to solve this problem. this timeline contraction problem. And I eventually did my due diligence and did all the investigating and basically only had one piece of information, and that was reinforcement. The computer's right. The timelines will contract down to some inevitable thing that you guys won't tell me about, so I can't help you. There is an inevitable event. It's been forecast, it's been predicted, it's been fed to us in a slop trough of what they want us to believe will happen. However, they don't actually have control over what happens. They only have control over the reaction, and it seems that no matter what they try to do to cause their desired reaction, it's going to have an opposite effect. If I had to give it a name, I would say it's the awakening process.
The Great Awakening is upon us, and just this confluence of events all happening right now, and Bitcoin is in the 80Ks, and the fiat cabal is on the ropes on many fronts. They're getting desperate.
Hello. I have good news for you on the digital euro front. Today the Governing Council has decided to move ahead on the next and final phase of the preparatory work for the digital euro. The other good news is that on October 23rd, the European Council has asked us and all those involved to accelerate the process so that we can roll out the digital euro as early as possible. This is important because as much as banknotes will continue to circulate, we want cash to be in the form of digital euro as well, so that you can circulate banknotes and click cash with the digital euro. More work is going to be done in the next few months, and if we receive the approval by the European Parliament in the course of 26, we'll be able to pilot the digital euro as of 27. And if the pilot is conclusive and positive, it will be a formal rollout in the whole of Europe in 2029. This is a big project because the euro is our currency, your currency. It brings us together. It's a symbol of trust in our common destiny. So off we go with the digital euro in that next and final phase of the preparation.
Europe choosing surveillance, America choosing Bitcoin. The split is happening in real time.
The president created a strategic reserve of Bitcoin in part because the United States government didn't have like a single custodian. You had every agency in the government that might have had an asset, seized an asset, or anything else, any kind of digital asset. They didn't have custody of it, so they were losing track of the private keys. So essentially, when you lose your keys, you lose. It's like losing a pile of cash.
Yeah.
So they created an organized way and put it under Treasury to say, hey, we're going to have a single custodian for all of the Bitcoin, kind of like Fort Knox for crypto, right? And then they said, well, not all crypto is created equally. Bitcoin we want to hold on to. It's an appreciating asset over a long period of time. Some of these other things, we should just sell them off and buy more Bitcoin. But they wanted to do it in a deficit neutral way. And I think a lot of people have been like, well, how else do you put money in there? And so we're introducing legislation that not only codifies that executive order, so there's a common sense way to have custody for the Bitcoin and other digital assets, but you can contribute. So when you pay your taxes, you can pay your taxes in Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is currency in that sense, and there's no capital gains.
Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. Taxes payable in Bitcoin. Capital gains exemption. Holy shit. This is the beginning of Bitcoin nation state game theory on U.S. soil. The Great Awakening is happening right now. The AI bubble is cracking. Wall Street's fraud is being exposed. Liquidity has evaporated, but the Fed is cornered, and Bitcoin sitting in the 80Ks staring down a monetary regime change. This is not a dip. This is not a correction. This is not a winter. This is the world realizing the fiat system is the scam, and Bitcoin is the exit. Choose your side, Bitcoin or slavery. Opt in or get dragged to fiat Sheol while we prepare our horses to ride to Valhalla. Hey, let us know what you guys think below. Hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe.